I just put together a list of investing mistakes that I've made in the past 2 years that we should all try to avoid in the year 2023. And on top of that, I'm also going to include ways we can fix each mistake and turn them into profits. And as a bonus, I'm also going to include not just investing mistakes, but also missed opportunities that I or you could have been taking advantage of this whole entire time. All right, ready? So we're gonna start this list off with penny stocks. So in early 2021, I only had one credit card with no balance on it and no real bills aside from my production company expenses. So basically, I was allowed to take risks. I had stocks that were booming and cash from DoorDash, which was paying me well at the time. So I decided to invest in penny stocks. I chose 2 penny stocks to invest in, and I found out about them from tiny YouTubers that were using the new presidency as a reason to invest in these companies that were supposed to blow up and make me rich because they were new solar companies who had accredited investors and CEOs. I thought I did a sufficient amount of due diligence, so I ended up investing some money. And this decision actually ended up doing pretty well the first couple of weeks. And if I remember correctly, I think I quadrupled my money or something like that, and it went over $1,000. And I genuinely thought these investments were gonna make me a millionaire. Nope. After that, over the next couple of months, the people running the company ended up taking my money and a lot of other people's money as well. Other people that invested in that company and thought that company was gonna do well. In the present day of today, I have about $25 left from that investment. Isn't that wonderful? So you would probably think the lesson here is to full on avoid penny stocks, right? Well, yeah, kind of. The lesson is more like, do your research, be skeptical of things that are too good to be true, and don't listen to anyone who's never invested in their entire lives. Got it? Awesome. But there actually might be a way to make some money from this. So here's the fix. When it comes to this lesson in penny stocks, I just invested the wrong way. Now, I don't endorse this, and I'm not a financial advisor, but if one carefully implements day trading, this could work, and it has worked. If I sold those shares at my target price, which it went drastically above, I would have made a wonderful profit. But then I got greedy expecting millions. I was speaking about this with a friend of a friend of a friend who used to be a day trader, and what they were telling me was when they're specifically investing in penny stocks, they'll write out the hype and the growth of the stock, and they'll have a set goal for themselves for when they want to sell that stock. And when it reaches that set goal, they sell those shares, and they never look at that company ever again. And what this does for them is they have their profit and they have more money than they had before, but they also won't get the fear of missing out because they'll never look at that stock again. And they won't fall into the statistic of losing all your money to penny stocks. It's a win-win. Now, for me, my personal take on this, I have not implemented this strategy on penny stocks, but I have implemented on my regular stock picks like on Webull and M1 Finance. For example, if I was investing in a company I previously thought was a really good company and undervalued, and it turns out to not be that good of a company I thought it was and overvalued, then I'd sell those shares and there's no need for me to look at it again. I'll reallocate all that money towards the rest of my portfolio, and by doing that, I'm slowly refining my portfolio, getting rid of the stocks that don't make me as much money. And I also cash in on the profit that I already got from those stocks. And by doing this, I saved myself a lot of heartache and I cashed in a lot of profit and prevented a lot of losses, I hope. But for the most part, I usually just invest on a consistent basis, increase the volume of investment appropriately depending on which stocks I think are undervalued. A bonus tip for this example. Notice how I took the advice. I didn't specifically implement this advice the way the messenger intended. What I did was I took their strategy that they use in penny stocks and I implemented towards my regular stock trading because I stay away from penny stocks now. But even though that friend of a friend of a friend of a friend that I was talking about later jeopardized their temporary success by going on vacation, it has been one of my most important pieces of advice that I've ever received, specifically on investing. Not everything. Yeah, no, not everything. But the point is, advice is just another possible weapon in your arsenal. And there can be some very bad advice. Alright, next mistake, being self-employed. Now everyone knows being self-employed has its pros and cons, but it really just depends on how you go on about it and utilize your time. I didn't do this correctly for the first 2 years of my self-employment, not understanding that I was wasting my time. Alright, some quick pros of self-employment. Tax write-offs, flexibility or no set schedule. Build a portfolio depending on what you do, like photography, videography, video editing, anything in the production space, I think construction sometimes. Really just depends. Work as much as you want. Make as much as you want. All Alright, some quick cons. Tax write-offs decrease net income, which makes it harder to get a loan because it makes you look like a loser. Inconsistency. A lot of people in my department at the place I work at also have their own businesses, and they also do different side hustles. The reason they have that full-time job still is because it's consistent. Being a freelancer isn't as consistent, so the inconsistency. Unpredictability. No benefits. You spend your own money to make money, so profits aren't as high to start off with. Gross income looks better than net income, which is basically useless. And you have to wait at least 2 years with a decent net income, not gross, to get an okay loan, if any at all. Money per hour gets drastically cut at first, might even get worse. You have to organize a ton of receipts to show the IRS. That was for me when I was doing DoorDash. So that's not even more complex businesses like freelancing, side hustles, stuff like videography, video editing, all that stuff. You have to organize more than just receipts. You have to organize your own schedule, receipts, talk to clients, the list goes on. It really just depends on the amount of work you're doing, the amount of money you're making, and how you're utilizing your time, and the rate of growth and profit you're projecting close in the future, depending on your specific situation. I can argue with myself all day about this one, but reality is there are a lot more cons than pros if you're not making a lot of money. Earlier I said I didn't do self-employment correctly for 2 years, and here's why. I was too content with where I was and how much I was making. I had a shitty production company that was going nowhere, and I was doing DoorDash, which I thought was paying me well until I filed my taxes for 2021 in 2022. What I found out was I actually made a decent gross income, but after I subtracted all the receipts and profits, I only netted about $6,000, maybe a little less. Something really needed to change because for the amount of work I was doing, I shouldn't be doing that while only getting $500 per month net. So I just got a job. That brings us to our next fix. I just got a job, and it's actually working out pretty well. I have a pretty killer resume, and I'm making a lot more than I did being self-employed. But the real reason to get this job, specifically the one I work at, is being able to talk to a lot of people that do have their own businesses, who do side hustles and freelance. Quite a lot of them do in my department. Some of them even have their own businesses. And my job, it's at Disneyland, and the specific department I'm in has those people that have their own businesses and freelance and all that stuff. But the reason they're still at Disneyland is mostly either for the benefits or the consistency, or both. But the most important thing I learned working at Disneyland was actually my first month of being hired was I learned about the opportunity there was in the production business, either working for someone else or working for yourself. But the most important word in that sentence is opportunity. Anyone can become big on social media now as long as they have the good editing skills, basic marketing, and they want to learn the algorithms of the social media platforms like YouTube. Got the YouTube algorithm meeting audience, of course. Instagram has their own algorithm, so does TikTok. So I'm gonna go all in on this. Again, knowing a lot more than I did before. For my next mistake, failed businesses. So when I first turned 18, the very first thing I did was I opened up 2 bank accounts and I went to Dollar Tree to apply for my very first job. It was right on my birthday, and the general manager gave me an interview right on that day. And at the end of that interview, he offered me the job. And of course I took it, even though it was minimum wage. It was more money than I've ever made in my whole entire life, and I thought it was wonderful. So I started making money, and over the next couple of weeks, I opened up a business. And I was so ambitious, over that course of that month, I've opened up I think 3 businesses, something like that. A month later, I opened up another one. So the first business that I opened was a production company. I've always wanted to start a production company, and I've always wanted to make films and short films and like little cartoons and all that stuff. It's pretty good. The second business was a makeup brand, which I knew nothing about, and that was a big mistake on my part. And I'm gonna get into that in a little bit. The second company was watches, and basically what the watch company was, I just advertised those products on my website, and I would drop ship them right over to the customer after they would order on my website, and I'd take the profit. I knew a little bit about watches, but not that much. Alright, the fourth business I opened up was drones, and I knew a little more about drones because I've always kind of been into technology, but again, not enough to actually open up a business and start making money from it. And the main mistake about opening all these businesses was not focusing all my energy and efforts into the one business that I was actually good at and actually learned about it in school and practiced, which was the production company. I mean, I still learned valuable lessons from the other 3 companies, like making a website, advertising products, drop shipping products directly to customers, and Facebook ads, Google ads. I learned all that stuff, and I kind of wrapped my head around the algorithm and how they work. Wasn't that successful. In fact, it barely was successful. I barely got any sales, and I did not turn a profit. In fact, I lost a couple of $100s on those. But again, I keep telling myself, at least I learned some lessons. Now, for the production company, I wish I would have focused more on that from the start, because that's what I was actually good at. I've filmed before in school, I've made YouTube videos, videos before, and I have edited. And I was actually pretty decent at editing. That was my field, that's what I knew how to do, and I should have gotten my freelancing career started much earlier. And maybe that production company would have been successful much sooner. And really, that was probably just the main mistake, not focusing all my resources and energy into that one company. Because eventually, the drop shipping businesses that I had all disappeared, were unsuccessful. And even with the drop shipping companies that I did have, I was mainly focusing on the production aspects of them, recording the products, advertising them on my profile, opening up the social media platforms, all that stuff. So at the end of the day, I do have a decent portfolio when it comes to filming the commercials for that, but again, you gotta focus on what you're good at, what you've been trained to do, and what you know how to do. That's how you can start making money quickly. And that is basically the lesson learned. Focus up. Alright, so next mistake, not refinancing my car when I had the opportunity to in 2022, which was last year. So basically I had the opportunity to refinance my car, which now has a 6% interest rate. I could have got it down to a 2.75 or 3% interest rate. I don't remember exactly, but it would have saved me about $800 to $900 in the long run because I already paid 13 months of interest at that time. And I would have saved $50 a month, so I would have been seeing some nice savings right away. But a big problem arises. Did I have bad credit? No. In fact, it was pretty good at the time. The main problem the banks had with me applying for a loan was I didn't have a job and I was self-employed for less than 2 years. So I was a big liability for them because the income that I was receiving was more inconsistent. So no matter how amazing my credit was, the bank was never going to give me a loan. According to them, I did not even have any income at all. My dad would have had a cosign, which he understandably didn't want to do. But here's the thing. Looking back on it, I think it would have benefited the both of us. I would have started saving money right away, and in the long run, I would have saved a lot more money as well. And for my father, that loan on his credit report would have actually looked better than what he thought, because it turns out banks like a variety of different types of loans. And what he thought was, since he would have to refinance and be on that new loan, that his credit score was going to drop. And it would have dropped from the start, don't get me wrong, but in the long run, it probably would have helped out a lot because, again, it proves a variety of different loan types. That's redundant. But the thing is, I also learned some very valuable lessons from that mistake. Here's the fix. Now, I know when it comes to applying to a loan, banks not only require you to have an amazing credit score, but also 2 years of consistent net income for specifically self-employed individuals. And I suggest amazing net income because they will not look at you if you do not. Either that or get a job. So I have two options. I could either get a job working for someone else, building my income history in the process, or two, I could just buy the car outright in cash. And to do that, I would have to make so much money being self-employed that I'm rolling in cash. So obviously I took the more realistic approach and I got a job. It made me step out of my comfort zone and work for someone else, which I usually don't like to do. This caused me to make more money, learn on the job, make connections, and build a stronger resume. So if I wanted to get a loan now, I would be able to. But interest rates, haha. Alright, so for my next mistake, listening to people with no experience. This mistake happened in early to mid 2021. One of my friend's dads made a group chat of my friend and a lot of our friends together in this group chat. And he was telling us about this amazing new penny stock he found out about, and it should make us rich in the next 1 to 2 years. FYI, this was around the same time my money was being taken from me from the other penny stocks. So he was giving us all this information he had on the company and how his friend already made a lot of money from it. So me and my other friend invested quite a large amount. A few damn hundred. And right off the bat, right when we invested, we started losing money. Not all of it, but not a little. Then we all met at the golf course the next day to discuss the investment and conduct business. That's when he told us his friend was making money from the stock already. And he also was explaining to us how he was so excited to invest because it was his first time investing in the stock market. And I thought, right when he said that. But I was hoping his friend knew a thing or two about the stock market. So over the next couple of weeks, my money disappeared. So I did my research on this company as well, and it looked less sketch than the other companies that I invested in that were penny stocks. And I had a little bit of hope because some of these penny stocks actually end up taking off and making some people rich. It didn't for me. Spoiler alert. So if you find a company you think will take off and it's a penny stock, maybe just invest a little bit, but not invest your whole entire savings account. That was really f***ing stupid of me. But by only investing a small chunk of your cash and that stock takes off, you'll make enough money to not look like a fool in front of your friend's dad. But if it does go down the drain like most most penny stocks do, then you don't lose all your money. Win-win. And for my last mistake, this is simple. I spent too much above my means, not having enough money left to save or invest. This is a tough one because food can easily be abused, and you can easily become addicted to it, especially if it has sugar. So only you can help yourself on this one. No YouTuber can motivate you or I enough to stop spending, so it's gotta be the person in the mirror.